Kindly rise for the national anthem.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Namaskar, a very good evening. On behalf of my organization, the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, I have the distinct privilege to extend a most respectful welcome to our chief guest for the evening, Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji. I also take great pleasure in extending a very warm welcome to all the distinguished dignitaries present amongst us today, eminent members of the Diplomatic Corps, esteemed members of India ICCR's General Assembly and governing body, respected officials from the Ministry of External Affairs, media representatives, our valuable patrons, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. Indian Council for Cultural Relations, the cultural arm of the Ministry of External Affairs, having completed 72 years this year, set up in 1950 to foster cultural relations with other countries, has evolved over the decade and become a channel for soft diplomacy. We are gathered here this evening for a very significant event where notable epic translation work from Persian to Arabic by author and translator Mr. Amar Hassan Swami from Syria would be released by our chief guest, Honorable Vice President of India, titled Majma Ul-Bahrain of Darashikoh, which is the first of its kind to highlight the commonalities between the Hindu and Islam doctrines. This event will also witness the release of the song Atulya Bharat Desh Mera, composed and sung by Mr. Anand Karki, popularly known as the Ghazal Samrat of Nepal, to pay tribute to our incredible land as part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. Before we proceed with today's event, I would request Honorable President of the ICCR, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, to kindly extend a floral welcome to our chief guest, Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji. Coming back to the book, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan's eldest son, His Royal Highness Prince Darashikoh's Persian treatise in Hindi is called Samudra Sangam Granth and translates as the confluence of the two seas or the mingling of the two oceans. The Arabic title retains the original name of the book and adds a descriptive line, a comparative study between Hinduism and Islam, since the book echoes the spiritualism of the writer, the way he transcends religions to preach harmony and mysticism and finds similarities between Sufi philosophy and Hinduism. The Arabic translation of the book was released by one of the most celebrated publishing houses in the Arab region, Dar al-Intijar al-Arabi. And we are fortunate to have the notable publisher, Mr. Nabil Murua, join us today all the way from Lebanon. He was also one of the distinguished visitors of the ICCR. I take great pleasure in inviting him now to share his thoughts with us on the significant occasion of the release of the book in India, organized by the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. May I kindly call upon you, Mr. Murua?
دولة نائب رئيس جمهورية الهند، سعادة رئيس المجلس الهندي للعلاقات الثقافية، الحضور الكريم. عندما آلينا على أنفسنا نحن في مؤسسة الانتشار العربي نشر كتاب مجمع البحرين، وهو عبارة عن دراسة مقارنة بين الإسلام والهندوسية، ذلك إيمانا منا بحرية الفكر وحرصا على وضع هذا الكتاب غير المعروف لدى الناطقين باللغة العربية بين أيدي القراء العرب، وخصوصا النخبة المتثقفة منهم ومن تستهويهم هذه الدراسات. ينطلق داراشوكو في بحثه من أن الحقيقة ليست حكرا على دين أو معتقد محدد، بل إن الغاية الأساسية والنهائية لدى جميع الأديان والمذاهب هي بلوغ الحقيقة الكونية التي تتخطى المظاهر والطقوس والأساطير والدينويات. لا شك أن دارا قد درس الإسلام والهندوسية وغاص في أعماق فكرهم الفلسفي والعرفاني والروحي، كما تعمق في دراسة الكتب الدينية وخصوصا ما يتعلق بالمعتقدات والتعاليم الأساسية للإسلام والهندوسية، وأجرى مناقشات مع فقهاء الدين في كلا الديانتين. ويمكن اختصار رؤية دارا بالوصول إلى مجتمع موحد يولد من التفاهم المتبادل بين المكونات الأساسية ومن احترام الأديان والمعتقدات والثقافات الأخرى، فضلا عن التقريب بين العقائد والأفكار الدينية المختلفة والمجتمعات المتغيرة، وصولا إلى مجتمع إنساني خالي من الحروب والانقسامات وعدم الاستقرار. والمفجع أن دار الباحث عن السلام ونبذ الحروب لقي حتفه أخيرا بتهمة الزندقة. وأخيرا لابد من إزياء الشكر والتقدير للباحث والمترجم الأستاذ عمار حسن على ما بذله من جهد مشكور في نقد السفر السمي مجمع البحرين إلى العربية، ليكون مرجعا هاما للقارئ العربي أينما كان، ولاهتمامه بترجمة الأدب والثقافة الهندية إلى العربية. مشكورا.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morova. Since your talk was in Arabic, our curiosity to hear the translation and to know more about the book from the notable translator himself has deepened. Before I kindly request Mr. Amar Hassan Swami to give us an introduction to the book, written in 1655, I have the pleasure to say a few lines in his introduction. A graduate in mass communication from Damascus University, Mr. Hassan Swami arrived in India in 2008 at the age of 32 as a seeker of spirituality. He devoted himself to studying, translating, and spreading India's spiritual literature and texts amongst the people of Arabia, thus strengthening the Indo-Arab cultural ties. He has translated 9 books based on Indian faiths and doctrines. May I kindly call upon you, Mr. Hassan Swamiji? May I also request you to please translate what Mr. Nabil had to say?
Yes, thank you. This is the translation. Honorable Vice President of India, Honorable President of ISCR, Excellencies, and distinguished guests. When we at Al-Intishar Al-Arabi decided to publish the book Majma Ul-Bahrain, which is a comparative study between Islam and Hinduism, it was our belief in freedom of thought and our desire to place this book, unknown to Arabic speakers, in the hands of Arab readers, especially the educated elite among them who has a leaning towards such comparative studies between religions. Darashuko begins his research on the fact that the truth is not limited to a specific religion or belief. Rather, the primary and final goal of all religions and sects is to reach the universal truth which transcends appearances, rituals, myths, and worldliness. There is no doubt that Dara has studied Islam and Hinduism and immersed himself in the depths of their philosophical, mystical, and spiritual thought, as well as in the study of religious books, especially with regard to the basic beliefs and teachings of Islam and Hinduism. And he also held discussions with religious scholars of both religions. This is clearly evident through his citation of examples, proofs, verses, and texts from the books of two beliefs. Dara's vision can be summed up as a unified society born of mutual understanding between the basic components and respect for other religions, beliefs, and cultures, as well as the rapprochement between different religious beliefs and ideas and different societies, leading to a human society free of wars, divisions, and instability. Tragically, Dara, a seeker of peace and a repudiator of wars, finally died, rather killed, on charges of heresy. Finally, I must express my thanks and appreciation to the scholar and translator, Mr. Amar Hassan, for his commendable effort in translating this precious book, Majma Ul-Bahrain, into Arabic, to be an important reference for the Arab reader and for his interest in translating Indian literature and culture into Arabic. Mr. Nabil Marwa's speech is over by this. Thank you. Now it's my speech. Ram Ram, Salamullahi alaykum wal ikram. Namaskar. Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankar ji, Honorable President of ICCR, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudh ji, Head of the Persian Language Research Center at AMU, Shrimati Professor Azarmi Safawi ji, Founder of the publishing house Al-Intishar Al-Arabi, Mr. Nabil Marwa, Director General of ICCR, Shri Kumar Tuhinji, Excellencies, distinguished guests and friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the great interest you have shown in my translation of Majma Ul-Bahrain, The Confluence of Two Seas. I would like also to thank ICCR, under the auspices of Honorable Dr. Vinay, for the exceptional keenness it took to highlight this work, which will ensure that it gets known, especially in the Arab world. I am very pleased and honored to join you here to celebrate this wonderful occasion, which I see more as a celebration of something larger, which I will come to tackle in the coming few minutes. First of all, let me begin by sharing a few points on what qualifies me to speak of this book as well as its author, His Royal Highness Dara Shikoh, this Mughal mystic prince who has brought us all here together, even though he has been away for nearly 4 centuries. I remember that since my childhood, I was visited by questions and inquiries about the nature of life and existence, and the true purpose of both. Questions which were much bigger than me at the time. So I was trying to suppress them as soon as they rose up. Probably this is the case with most trouble-making children. So yes, I was that type of child. However, these questions continued to revisit me many times throughout my young adult life, and even after my entry into the corporate world, and that until 2005, the year in which I entered India for the first time, but through the medium of books. And this is the magical power of books and translation. Ladies and gentlemen, I started avidly reading about India and its great contribution to metaphysics and philosophy. This journey of my readings brought me early, face to face, with the word moksha, spiritual liberation, a word that I found so gripping and enchanting that it has accompanied me since then, and this is still as a shadow. However, as Honorable Dr. Vinay said once, India cannot be understood by just reading books and visiting websites. One has to experience India. Interesting, rather miraculous events led me to meet my guru in the end of 2008, Sri Radhama, here in India, Tamil Nadu, in which I still vividly remember that in my first darshan meeting with her, she gave me in one hand a book of Maulana Jalaluddin al-Rumi, the great Sufi master and poet, and in the other hand, a book of Sri Nyanishwari ji, the great Marathi Rishi saint and poet, the book titled Amruta Anubhava, the nectar of experience. So in one hand I'm holding the book of Rumi, and on the other hand I'm holding the book of Nyanishwari ji. Thus I can say my journey with Advaita Vedanta, the tradition of non-duality, and Sufism started simultaneously. And here I am today, after those years, talking in the presence of Honorable Vice President of my beloved India and among this august gathering. Truly, what an incredible India. So in fact, what we are celebrating today through Majma Ul-Bahrain of Dara Shoko is this spirit of India, this spirit of inclusiveness, acceptance, spirit of a true generosity. For it is according to me, generosity doesn't lie in just giving material things. It is by embracing the other as your own self. And this is where India and our hero, the great child of India, Dara Shoko, comes as a great example and embodiment of that Indian spirit. I call Dara Shoko as my most recent astonishing finds in India, a land that continues to amaze me despite all the long years I have spent in it. I found a great part of myself in Dara. I rejoiced with him for his great discoveries. I thought to myself, how come I didn't hear about him before? Moreover, how come there is nothing about him in Arabic language? Thus my journey into translating the book has started, which it wouldn't have been possible to get it done without the kind support of Dr. Azhar Miji and Dr. Nabil Marwa. Dara said in Majma Ul-Bahrain, and I am paraphrasing, I found no difference except verbal in the way Hindu and Muslim monotheists sought and understood the truth. جزء اختلاف لفظي دریافت و شناخت تفاوتی ندید. In a way, Dara Shoko through this statement popularized what already has been pronounced thousands and thousands of years ago. For the Rig Veda, the oldest of all Vedas, said, Ekam Sat, Vipraha, Bahudaha, Vedanti. Truth is one, but sages call it in various ways, in various names. A few days ago, it was the 336th anniversary of the death of this legendary genius Dara Shoko, who was killed because he uttered that which unites, not what divides, and that the truth is not the monopoly of one group alone. According to the Hindu belief, taking a snan, bath, in the Sangam, confluence of rivers or seas, leads to moksha, spiritual liberation. So, today, let us all take dip in Dara's Sangam, Majma Ul-Bahrain, and liberate our minds from the heavy weight of dogmas and misunderstandings. Let's celebrate Dara Shoko's legacy of harmony. Let's celebrate the essence of this sacred land, Bharat, India. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hassan Swami, for translating the esteemed publisher's interesting thoughts and your very profound inputs on the book. The ICCR is also very pleased to have with us Professor Azarmi Dukt Safavi, who assisted with the translation work and eventually furnished the Arabic edition with a 14-page foreword that throws a very significant light on the original book, the various aspects of its content, Mughal Prince Dara Shiko's vision, and the importance of the Arabic translation. Professor Safavi is the founding director of the Institute of Persian Research and the head of the Persian Language Research Center at Aligarh Muslim University. Recipient of several prestigious awards for her contribution to Persian scholarship, Professor Safavi is also the president of the All India Persian Teachers Association. May I kindly invite you, ma'am, to say a few words?
नमस्कार, सलाम। माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति जी, आईसीसीआर के प्रेसिडेंट सार सबुद्ध जी, तुहिन कुमार जी, अमर the translator of this great work by Dara Shikoh, distinguished audience, His Excellencies, diplomats, dear friends. First of all, I must thank the ICCR for giving me this opportunity to participate in this release ceremony of Dara Shikoh's magnum opus called Samudra Sangam or Majma Ul-Bahrain. Amar has very beautifully described the book, and it really inspires me to see that Dara is being celebrated in such a big way. I think today is a historic day and a historic moment for Dara Shikoh, the scholarly Mughal prince who preferred to not wage wars like his other siblings, but to try through his pen, through his scholarly endeavors, to create harmony and love in the society. Delhi saw his tragic downfall, and today the acknowledgement of his efforts by none other than the Manniye Uparashtrapati Ji of India says that Dara died in Delhi and Dara rises like a phoenix in Delhi. Now Majma Ul-Bahrain, and I was just telling to the president of ICCR that it's really difficult, very difficult, to talk about two oceans in these few minutes. And Amar has very beautifully, succinctly described Majma Ul-Bahrain. Actually, Majma Ul-Bahrain is the result and outcome of Dara's lifelong studies and sitting with yogis, with Sufis, with scholars. I mean, can you just imagine that a governor of Prayagraj, that a governor of Kashi would sit through the night talking to Baba Lal Yogi, discussing the Hindu ideas with him, with Muhibbullah Allahabadi, discussing the Sufistic ideas with him, and then he will come up with a conclusion of his own, a conclusion and a result which said that all religions are based on truth. He especially wanted to study Hinduism and Islam because these were the two communities living in his beloved India, and he wanted to create a society in which both these communities can live happily with each other. And I think he came to a very sound conclusion. He thought that most of the conflict, most of the hatred is born out of ignorance, out of not knowing each other, out of not knowing each other's ideology and culture and religion enough. So he took it upon himself to study about these religions, compare it with Islamic mysticism, and discover their commonalities. You would be amazed to know that Dara's journey started with Ekeshwarvad. Dara's journey started with Ekeshwarvad and concluded with Majma Ul-Bahrain. And to me, the best point of Majma Ul-Bahrain is that, like a modern comparative study, he compares these two religions, these two faiths at a mystic level in a tabulated form, almost like a tabulated form. In one column, he will give the points he discovered in Hindu philosophy, and at the other column, he will discuss the points in Islamic philosophy, Islamic Sufism. So this was his comparative analytical study, and that is why we take note of Majma Ul-Bahrain today. And I'm sure that today is the beginning of great work ahead of us, work discovering more and more of Dara's philosophy and trying to achieve what unfortunately due to his tragic death he could not complete, but which we could and probably we would in the coming future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that very enlightening talk. Before we have the book release, followed by the release of the song, I would like to invite Honorable President of the ICCR, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, to deliver his remarks on the occasion. He's a researcher cum student of political science and a trainer in democracy by profession. Besides being the Vice President of the Asiatic Society of Mumbai, Dr. Sahasrabudhe has been the Honorable Member of the Parliamentary Rajya Sabha and has served as the Chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education, Women, Children, Youth and Sports. He was the National Vice President of India's ruling party and is the Vice President of RMP, or Rambhau Mahalgi Prabodhini, South Asia's only training and research academy for elected representatives and voluntary, social workers. He has also authored and edited over a half a dozen books in Marathi and English, a couple of which have received distinguished awards. Under his stellar leadership, the ICCR has been concentrating on cultivating an enlightened understanding of the idea of New India in pursuance of enhancing India's soft power and endeavoring to fulfill his prime objective of translating India's popular global goodwill into more vibrant diplomatic relationships. May I kindly call upon you, sir, to deliver your remarks?
Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji, the Director General of ICCR, Shri Kumar Tuhinji, the man of the evening today, Shri Amar Hassanji, who has ably translated Majma Ul-Bahrain, which is now being launched. Along with that, an artist who has come from Nepal here, a singer, Shri Anand Karkiji, the publisher of the book, the most eminent scholar in Persian studies, Professor Azharmi Dukt Safavi, whom we heard just now, and also distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, also our very senior Rajya Sabha member, Shri Bhuvaneshwar Kalitaji, one of the very well-known music maestro, Shri Wasifuddin Dagar Sahab, and all others who are present here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matter of great pleasure for me, first of all, to have the Honorable Vice President for agreeing to our request to grace this function, in a way, at a very short notice. Honorable Vice President originally comes from Rajasthan, and Amar Hassan, the writer of this book, is an ardent devotee of Mirabai, who also comes from Rajasthan. He has translated close to 300 bhajans of Mirabai in Arabic. And also, incidentally, the writer of the book Majma Ul-Bahrain, Dara Shikoh, also is a Rajasthan-born Mughal prince. Ajmer was his birthplace, as we all know. So Rajasthan is one of the prominent features of today's function, and really great pleasure to have Honorable Vice President. Let me once again express my deep sense of gratitude to you, sir. The Indian Council for Cultural Relations thought it fit to release this book, the Arabic translation of Majma Ul-Bahrain by Dara Shikoh, because creating an enlightened understanding about Indian culture is the institutional mission of the ICCR, and this book is all about the core value of Indian culture, and that is confluence. We have always believed in Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. What is remarkable about Majma Ul-Bahrain, that it not just recognizes but also resonates this foundational principle of what I call as spiritual democracy. We believe that the Arabic translation of Dara Shikoh's book will help us spread greater understanding of Indian culture and its core values in countries where Arabic is the main language. The second reason for we deciding to have this function to launch this book is related to Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. As we know that under this Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, we are focusing on unsung heroes of our freedom struggle. And in a sense, Dara Shikoh was also a freedom fighter because he was all for free thinking and liberty. And unfortunately, he also continued to be an unsung hero. We know too less about Dara Shikoh, not only in this country, but world over. And this book is certainly an attempt to put a full stop to this ignorance and create more awareness about Dara Shikoh. Lastly, yesterday only while launching the Kartavya Path, Honorable Prime Minister spoke about cultural infrastructure. And I would say the book that is being launched here today, along with the song composed by our Nepali friend Shri Anand Karkeji, are also some of the instruments of our cultural infrastructure. And they are being launched today. It certainly is a very happy occasion. In a way, it also speaks about India's national urge to free ourselves from the burden of colonialism and to move back to the roots of our culture. This book launch is our own way of celebrating the core values of Indian culture, and I'm happy that the publisher too has joined this function, who has come all the way from Beirut, Lebanon, and several others are also here, and I'm really grateful to all of them for having taken out time. I'm sure this book and this song as well will definitely be liked by one and all. Thank you very much.
And that was Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, Honorable President of the ICCR, with his remarks on the occasion. Thank you very much, sir. It's time now for the most important part of today's event, the formal release of the book, Majma Ul-Bahrain of Dara Shikoh, translated from Persian to Arabic by Mr. Amar Hassan Swami. I now humbly request our Chief Guest, Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji, to kindly do the honors. Thank you very much. May I also humbly request our Chief Guest, Honorable Vice President of India, to release the CD of the song Atulya Bharat Desh Mera by singer and composer from Nepal, Mr. Anand Karki. The writer and the producer is Mr. Krishna Adhikari. The song celebrates India's unparalleled synergetic culture at a very historical point of time when India completes 75 glorious years of independence and the whole nation is observing Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Mr. Karki has lent his melodious voice to more than 3,000 songs in 5 languages and is greatly inspired by the legendary Indian singer Kishore Kumar. Before I now kindly call upon our Honorable Chief Guest to deliver his keynote address, I take great pride and have the distinct privilege in saying a few words about him. Shri Jagdeep Dhankarji was sworn in as the 14th Honorable Vice President of India on 11th August 2022, recording the highest poll victory margin since the 1992 election. Prior to serving in this position, he served as the Governor of West Bengal. Besides his long and successful stint in politics, he is an advocate by profession, practicing primarily in the Supreme Court of India since 1990. He was the senior-most designated senior advocate of the state of Rajasthan till taking the oath as governor on 30th July 2019. He is also known as an avid reader, has keen interest in spirituality and meditation, and is a lover of sports. He has been the president of the Rajasthan Olympic Association and the Rajasthan Tennis Association. It's an honor to have you with us today, sir.
My greetings to everyone on this very important occasion. Honorable Dr. Vinay Sacharbudde, President, Indian Council of Cultural Relations, Senior Parliamentary Kalitaji, distinguished personalities on the dais and off the dais. At the outset, I must indicate it has been seamless and smooth when I handled the book and the cassette. I have seen number of occasions where it was the most difficult task. You can never get the book out of carefully preserved cover. Grateful to Vinay Sacharbudde. He was in fact very Vinay in doing it. The people present here are not to be taken note of in numerical terms. I know some of them personally, and I know of many present here. And therefore, this occasion has all the meaning for everyone who is concerned with culture. Indeed, a pleasure to release the Arabic version of the book Majma Ul-Bahrain of Dara Sukho, translated by Sri Amar Hassan amongst this august gathering. He has a deep Rajasthan connection. I have deeper. I was a student of Sainik School Chittorgarh, and the fort was always before us for 6 years. Been to that place where he translated the work of Mirabai. Grateful to ICCR for associating me with this program. As a matter of fact, I must put on record, Vinayji has been introducing me to such sublime functions much before I became governor. I'm glad he gave this time a very short notice, but he's known on occasions to give no notice at all. and he would bear me out. I am honest, compliant. Best wishes and heartiest congratulations for excellent work to the translator, the publishers, ICCR, and all others in bringing out this book to a reality and opening up of the celebrated work of Mughal Prince Dara Sukho to Arabic speaking audiences. I am sure the review of the book, some reflections about the book, indicated in Arabic language and translated here, well, this will not be limited only to Arabic speaking audience. This will generate a ripple that would affirmatively involve everybody in some thought process. Bharat has had a glorious heritage of not only tolerance for others' views, but a unique culture of engagement with all views, a culture of pluralism and syncretism. I have always believed that we must lend our ears to the other point of view. The urge to reject the other point of view, a drop of a hat, cannot be taken to be rational approach. Experience has shown that the other point of view, more often than not, turns out to be the correct point of view. And I am sure if we go to our civilizational ethos, consideration of this particular approach has been signally highlighted. It had been exemplified by Indian kings too, from the time of great Ashoka more than 2 millennia ago, and to the person about whom is being said, Crown Prince Dara Sukho, 400-500 years ago. Dara Sukho's magnum opus, Majma Ul-Bahrain, confluence of two oceans, has helped in bringing stronger unity amongst the people of India. As a matter of fact, if we go back to our civilizational ethos, several centuries ago, we will find all this in abundance. It remains ever relevant to not only India but to the entire humanity. And the contemporaneous ecosystem which resonates in our ears makes relevance all the more pertinent and timely. A genius, a skilled poet, and a Sanskrit scholar, Dara Sukho studied Sufi and Vedic philosophies extensively. No one will be surprised at his work with this background. Study of Vedic philosophies are bound to be enlightening to anyone who goes through it. I would urge everyone to focus on it, and we will find a sublime resolution mechanism for the problems the world at large is facing and suffering at the moment. Dara Sukho ji translated the Upanishads and other important works from Sanskrit to Persian. He was convinced that the Upanishads are what the Quran calls Al-Kitab, Al-Maknaun, the hidden book. I have been to a number of universities And I always implored the students, the teachers, please have a look at our Vedas, at our Upanishads. Merely knowing them just by caption thereof is not sufficient. If one goes through the Upanishads and Vedas once, there will be amazing clarity in thought process and mind, and that will contribute to the great balance in society, and we will not have to face the kind of a situation we are witnessing in our times. Dara Sikho was, I would say, a torch-bearer of social harmony by reminding us what was always available for centuries in our civilization. We must revive his legacy and apply his spiritual thought to strengthen social cohesion in the present times. In our ethos, we have always treated the world to be one and always thinking, contemplating and executing for its larger welfare. My congratulations to the man of the day, the well-dressed Amar Hassan ji, for a commendable effort, and the very fact that he thought about it is all the more important. The translation of this book into Arabic is a notable initiative, and this will bring a huge connect between the people. We need to emphasize that most of our problems either will be diluted or will not be there if we enhance people-to-people contact. This book, I am sure, will catalyze it. Bharat has always believed in the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbam. We truly believe in this country the world is one family. Sarva Dharma Sambhav is the soul of India, and this can be seen in every nook and corner of the country. The Indian thought and way of life, which has attracted, even in recent times, many people from all over the globe to the Himalayan terrain and elsewhere in the country, has much to offer to the world. And this is reflected in the book and work of Dara Sikho. We can reflect on the treasure of knowledge from the ancient land and herald a time of global peace and peace for humanity and harmony. Indisputably, we are in times where peace is our foremost need. There can be no exploitation of the potential of human genius unless there is tranquility in the ecosystem. Disturbance of peace in any part of the globe in the present times, where our connect is instant, has impact one way or the other. And disturbance has only negatively impactful I have had the benefit, honor, and privilege of releasing this important translation today. I congratulate Dr. Vinay Sahasrar Buddhe for affording me this opportunity. And I'm sure in times to come, there will be more such occasions. This has indeed been a feast to the intellect, and I'm sure Indian Council of Cultural Relations would continue its journey on incremental trajectory. My best wishes and greetings to all associated with this program. Pranam.
On behalf of the ICCR, I humbly thank Honorable Vice President of India for gracing this event with his very kind presence. And with that, we come to the end of our event that witnessed the release of a significant book as well as the release of a song paying tribute to our great nation as part of the upcoming celebrations by Honorable Vice President of India, organized by the
for his continuous guidance and advice in our work towards realizing members of the diplomatic corps, and distinguished guests who are present today, and to all those numerous persons and officials from ICCR and other organizations involved in publication of the book and the CD, and in making today's evening a memorable one. Once again, my greetings to everyone, and wish you a very, very good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Kindly rise for the national anthem.
तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तव जय